Hey, this is an update on Big Blue and what I'm working on right now. So, I've been furiously putting together videos and snapshots for various games because what I want to do is I want to have a collection of all of the good games, any game that even remotely borders on being good or interesting or noteworthy, and get them all in there. So let me just show you some of the categories that I've created and what I'm doing here. So, on top of favorites, I'm trying to categorize these things. So, for example, I have fighters, and then within fighters, I have beat 'em ups, and then I have versus games. And so you can see I'm trying to categorize these things based on genre and subgenre. And so if you go into versus, I then have things broken up into more subcategories. So in this case, I have all the Darkstalkers games lumped in together in a category. So I can kind of just group them all like that. So if I go in Darkstalkers, then I have the four Darkstalkers games. And so yeah, I've been going through and creating videos for all of these, getting good snapshots of all of them, and it's looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. And then another example, and the other thing too is I'm trying to find really good screenshots that represent the series, something that really encapsulates what the series is about. So there I have that one. I thought that was kind of nice for Darkstalkers. And then for like King of Fighters, for example, I have this one. They're all kind of like nice sort of cinematic shots from the games. It just so there's something kind of nice for a menu there. And then I got all of the King of Fighters games in all grouped together, all together. So that's kind of nice. And same thing with beat 'em up. I got pretty much most of the good beat 'em ups. I'm still kind of going through and trying to identify all of the really good ones. I don't have screenshots for all of them yet, but I do have screenshots for a lot of them. Yeah, so it's coming together. And you notice too, like as opposed to a lot of front ends you see where it's like, oh, here's Genesis and here's Super Nintendo, and I don't give a crap. It's all about the genre. It's all about how these games would be categorized, because I don't care about systems. I only care about like what kind of game I want to play. And if we go in, say like shooters is kind of interesting because there are so many different types of shooters. So here I have Cabal clones. I have first-person shooters. I have run-and-gun games. I have shoot 'em ups. I have twin-stick shooters. I have tube shooters. So there are all kinds of games because really, I mean, if you put them all in one list, it's almost like too much, I mean, because a lot of these games aren't games that I would necessarily go to, in my favorites list and just constantly play all the time. But it's just kind of nice to have all of these things available where you can just find them all. So in here, for example, you can kind of see here's Blood Brothers and GI Joe and Nom 75 and Wild Guns and so Super Nintendo and arcade and all that stuff. They're all mixed in together because once again I don't give a crap about systems. And then first-person shooters, I'm gonna put the Doom games in there and get Duke Nukem in there and Quake in there. Then I got all these like run and gun games. I'll probably create like a subcategory just for Metal Slug because there are enough Metal Slug games to justify it. And then shooters are interesting because within here, I'm breaking them up this way, although I still haven't really settled on how I want to do it yet, for the shoot 'em ups. But I got all these horizontal shooters, and then like vertical shooters. Oh, and the other thing too, you can see that I'm displaying the videos and snapshots to be aspect ratio correct. So even if you're playing on a horizontal monitor, I'll show the 3-4 games without stretching them if you configure it that way. So you can see that there also. It looks pretty good. Yeah, and then Yeah, I'm not sure about sports yet. There's a few good sports games, but I'm looking really for more kind of like arcade kind of stuff. In action adventure, that thing's kind of interesting because see here, I just have Castlevania as a group, and I can just put any Castlevania game in there, and it's kind of a nice way to put these things together. And isn't it nice how they're just all together? You don't have to go to like PlayStation for Symphony of the Night and then go to Super Nintendo for Castlevania 4. They're just all together. Which I really like. I like having all of these things like that, where they're grouped in a way that makes sense. Because like I said, when it all boils down to it, at the end of the day, we don't really give a crap about which hardware a game was on. Who cares about hardware? The whole point of emulation is to abstract the hardware away and just let you run the software without worrying about any of the hardware that you want. So, it's coming together. It's a lot of work though, because you can just see here, for example, how I gotta come up with screenshots for the categories and screenshots that that kind of represent or symbolize the whole series all together. So. It's a lot of work, to come up with all these. The thing that I noticed that I think is kind of interesting about a lot of the existing snapshot packages on the internet is that they're crapola. Like, for example, Neo Geo games, even though the hardware technically ran at 320 horizontal pixels, many of the games were actually 304 pixels and just had dead space on the left and right. And I noticed that a lot of the snapshots that are out there to download actually have the dead space built into it. So all of my screenshots, I've cropped them, I've adjusted them, I've made sure the aspect ratio is correct. So, and I'm going to be packaging these with future versions of Big Blue. So in a way, Big Blue is pretty much going to really kind of contain a pretty decent list of pretty much any game that is even semi noteworthy. I'm really trying to include most of these things in here. Like here, for example, I got some Metroid games. So it's a lot of work. I don't know how long it's going to take me. I'm going to have to be somewhat picky about the games. I don't want to include just like any crappy game. So, the criteria really is that the game has to be noteworthy in some way. Something has to justify putting it in here. Something has to be special about it. And so, here we go. We got Super Nintendo and Nintendo Zelda games next to each other. And I'm breaking up platforming games, by like fixed screen and scrolling so far, but potentially it's going to be broken up even more than that. I'm probably going to try to find some more clever categories, more descriptive categories to put some of these things in. At some point I'm going to have to make all of these videos available because really you don't see a lot of 60 frames per second videos of a lot of these games available, and so I think it would be kind of nice for people to have out there. It's just they're big, they take up a lot of space, and that kind of makes them a nuisance to distribute. And of course I don't want to charge money for it, like certain scumbags that I won't mention, you know who I'm talking about. So so that's basically the progress so far, and we might as well end this, on some jiggling boobs.